This is where we talk about Ember on Cheap Chat days. And I'm in my regular dev self today. I'm not doing Mate Grums. I know that's a shock and disappointment to many of you. Ember, what's that? I know I've been on vacation 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And part of this week, and this is back to school week too. I mean, I'm not literally, but there's like a whole bunch of prep for that too. So it's been busy around here. I don't know how many of you have kids that go to school. It's a pain in the butt, really. They should just play video games all day. Don't you agree?
My kid has a year-round school schedule, so no freedom for him.
Oh no.
Yeah, one day I was like, "You get to take this week off." He's like, "Oh my god!" like wow.
Well, let me tweet this out too.
Quick volume check. Yeah, sounds about right. Drive it slightly higher like this.
All right, let's see. Grum's EM8R. E-Mater. It's not pronounced E-Mater, by the way. It's pronounced Ember. The planet's designation is EM-8ER.
Of course. By the way, yeah, there seems to be a disconnect between my volume and on Discord and on the stream. Yeah, so people in.
Well, I have different sliders set up for that, but it's okay. It's gonna be a casual stream today.
All right.
You know, I don't want to like fool around with sound too much. So thank you all for watching the streams, the past couple of streams, because the viewership has really skyrocketed. We have, I think, we're averaging anywhere from 5 to 9,000 views per video, whereas previously we're doing about 50 to 100. And I think that's just a testament to kind of a resurgence in popularity of MMOs, particularly Final Fantasy 14. And I know that that's caused kind of like a renaissance even in our own community team, which is all playing Final Fantasy now, or many of you are. And we play together on a guild there, on an Emperor guild. And we've been having a lot of fun. And it's really reminded me of why I make MMOs, right? And it's something that it's easy to forget, as MMOs got to be more single player and tended to be something that didn't emphasize the social aspect or the world aspect. I think one thing I really miss is the sense of world. Oh, here goes the blender again. Pardon everyone. It's lunchtime over here, so the blender's going. But yeah, so the reason I got into making MMOs was because I used to play them back when they were MUDs, right? It was all just text. MUD stands for multi-user dungeon, for those of you who don't know. And I got into them because it was the first time I played a game that was sort of like a I almost called it a mass hallucination, but it's not that. It's a shared fantasy, right? That all of you are in a world together, and that you're trying to figure out and you're trying to excel in, and you all have a common background because you all share this sort of like world story backstory, and you're and I became fascinated with a game called a game called Gemstone on Genie, which was a big mainframe server that General Electric ran, and they would run this during the day, and then at night they're like, what do we do with all this excess computer power? I mean, we have this amazingly powerful computer, which is less powerful than your iPhone today, but to them it was like millions of dollars worth of computer equipment hanging around. So they decided to start like a bulletin board service. If you for those of you old enough to remember dial-up modems and bulletin board services. And part of what they did here was they made a text game with a company called Simitronics, which is still in existence, and you can still play this game, called Gemstone. And I was floored. I mean, it absorbed all my time. In fact, I almost flunked out of college because I was spending so much time in this game world. And you paid by the hour, right? But it was so powerful. I was so enamored by the fact that we were all together in this fantasy world, and we paid by the hour. And I was in college at the time, so my parents were footing the bill, and of course they were very shocked to see that, because I think it was like people complain about $15 a month, right? I think it was like $15 an hour prime time if you played on Genie servers, and so at least $10 an hour. It was something really really insane, and so my mom was looking at the credit card statements when I was in college, going, "Is son, are you okay?" She thought I had a coke habit or something, or I imagined that she thought I had a coke habit, because it's like, how are you spending so much money a month, and in college, and it turns out I was just playing this game, and it wasn't even 24/7. I was just playing. I was playing quite a bit. I became leader of the thieves guild, right? Yeah, exactly. It was one of those parental talks, and it got so bad that I was skipping all my classes and flunking out of college, and so I gave it up. I took my modem, and I gave the cable to my roommate, and I said, "Don't give this back to me, no matter how much I ask for it, unless it's related to like schoolwork or something like that." And then I walked into the guidance counselor's office, and I said, I need to fix my grades, and and I quit the game right then. But I never forgot it. And when I came to, and then I started to play. Here's the other love of my life was text adventure games. So I was also at the same time playing a lot of, and I promise this all relates to what I'm doing with Ember, right? And why I am so enamored with Final Fantasy 14 right now. And excuse me, I used to play text adventures from Infocom, and I was really good at them. And these were like, you solved puzzles, and they usually had, and I was attracted to the ones that had stories in them. So, Starcross, even Zork had kind of like a world backstory to it. And I used to play these. I got so good at them that I guess before there was speed running. Chaz, I see that. That was sly. No, I'm not going to tell you my favorite color. Oh, you made a guess. You guessed right, Chaz. Sorry, sorry to interrupt, but Chaz has been playing a game with me every week about my favorite color, and it used to be blue, and now it is orange. And Chaz has finally, after weeks and weeks of guessing, because I only gave him one guess a week, he has correctly guessed the color. And Chaz, what did we agree that was the prize for correctly guessing my favorite color, orange? This completely derailed the conversation.
Am I the only one who thinks this whole love of naval has given away the orange thing all along?
There might be a connection there. There might be a connection there. All right, Chaz, we'll talk later. We'll talk about colors later. I was talking about text adventure games, and so I really wanted to write text adventure games, and I started writing my own parsers. I don't know if you guys know what parsers are, but they are sort of like, they take your text input and they try to figure out what you mean. This is before like natural language or anything. So like, go north, right? And then your character would go north, and the game would give you a text description of what room you were in. And you'd say pick up key and use it in the iron lock, and the game's supposed to figure out what you mean by that. And that was a really hard problem back then. And nowadays it's a much easier problem, thanks to advances in AI. And but I was in high school and I was writing parsers for text adventure games, and I really liked, again, the sense of world, the sense of like this simulated environment. And when you combine that with multiplayer, you got a mud. And then now I felt like I was playing in a world. So worlds have always been interesting to me. And I was also playing Ultima at the time, the old Ultimas, Ultima 4, Ultima 1, 2, 3, 4, and I was really fascinated with Richard Garriott's vision of how to do an entire planet, right? And so this, can you see the trend? Can you see the trend in my gaming evolution? And I don't have Twitch up. I should get Twitch chat up here so I can see what I'm watching both Discord and Twitch chat right now. Well, not yet, but I will be watching Twitch chat in a second. So if you're on Twitch and I haven't responded to you, I apologize. But that is because I'm fixing that right now. I'm fixing that right now. I'm fixing that right now. Okay, I'm in Twitch chat. So again, if you guys are tuning in right now because you've been watching my Final Fantasy streams, first of all, thank you for doing that, and there will be more on Tuesdays. I will be streaming Final Fantasy, but today is we're talking about MMOs in general and sort of giving you guys a background history of my love of MMOs and inviting you to join our Discord server for Ember, which is the MMO I'm currently working on. And we have a great community. We have raffles and prizes. So please, please, please hop over to our Discord server to see what that's like. All right, and we figured out my favorite color was orange. So I played Infocom games. I played the Ultimas. I enjoyed beating Ultima 4 because a lot of my friends quit. They said it was too hard, and so they stopped playing. And so I was determined, and I eventually mastered the game and finished the game, and that was one of my first proud gamer accomplishments in high school. Very old games, right? But they would go on to evolve, and then a little bit later, I started to get into Japanese RPGs, JRPGs, and you can see on my bio it says that. Oh my gosh, this background is no good. I should put the logo up and stuff. That's all right. Let me see if I can fix this. There. The whole screen's kind of off kilter, but I think overall that looks a little more balanced. All right, but what do I know about composition? I'm not a graphic designer. Oh, so yeah, so I played a lot of JRPGs. I played the Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy 3, I think it's called in Japan. It had a different number in the U.S. And Chrono Trigger. And Chrono Trigger is by far my favorite JRPG. I just love that. I love the time travel aspect of it and everything else. And what I love about JRPGs is actually the thing that sticks out more than the combat or more than the flavorful characters in your party is is the fact that they just had, I don't know, cool stories. And this sounds really silly. I like having random conversations with all the people in the town in Japanese RPGs, JRPGs. I love going around talking to all the NPCs and listening to their little stories and everything else, and it just made it feel a little more real to me. And I felt that Western RPGs were kind of centered on the parties, like BioWare games, right? Really centered on the party's journey, and less so about the everyday lives of the people around this world. And to me, something about that made the world feel more real to me. That these NPCs had lives and stories, and the story and the picture of the world was painted through their interactions, right? So, yeah, a lot of people love Chrono Trigger. I know I'm not alone. I don't, I don't have to go to a Chrono Trigger anonymous group or anything. So these are the games I loved, right? And this is the whole reason I got into computer gaming. And the other games that really influenced me are probably XCOM. It was the first game that I, you know, played without sleep for 2 nights straight, and it's the reason I wanted to really make WoW, right? So when Blizzard wanted to cancel it, I was like, you can't cancel it. We got to make this game. This is really hugely important, and it's the type of game I've always wanted to make. So can we make this game? I'll do anything to make this game. I stepped down from manager of product development, and I became a producer on WoW, and eventually I became team lead. Oh, are we getting a buffering issue? Okay, we're back. So, so this has sort of been my whole life's pursuit, is the making of virtual worlds. And I have played them from their inception, and I have helped make some of the most well-known worlds out there. And now I really want to make my own world. And growing up in Japan, one of my first loves was mecha, and I loved the old school mecha, like Voltus 5 and Mazinger Z and all that stuff. I even I don't speak Japanese, but I could sing the Voltus 5 theme song in Japanese because I had the record, and I would wear the record out playing the theme song over and over again. Yeah, Black Shawarma, am I bouncing around that much? I think all of this has a theme, but maybe it is a little random. This is just kind of a conversational stream. So I'm just reading chat now, both in Twitch and in Discord. So one of the things I wanted to create was another world, right? And there's a world that's in me that I've wanted to express for a long time, which is a sci-fi world. And how do we make a sci-fi world? And I guess it's really selfish, because this is really the world that I want to live in, right? Like I want a world where I get to pilot mecha, and I get to hang out with my friends, and there's a huge epic storyline going on in the background, and we're fighting the huge battle against giant kaiju and against innumerable odds, and we're all doing our thing. But I want a sense of world, and I felt that MMOs, for all their richness, still fall short of that. I feel like they have, I mean, it's a Skinner box, right? They definitely have the Skinner box thing going on, and it's a very powerful game mechanic that you guys all know about now. Everybody knows about Skinner box mechanics and progression and things like this. But I wanted more. I really love both aspects. I love the progression aspect. I love getting more powerful, feeling more accomplished in the world, feeling like I've achieved things in a vast fantasy setting. But I also really like downtime in MMOs. I know, the accursed word. Most people don't talk about downtime anymore because it's been erased from MMOs, right? Downtime has been completely eliminated in many ways from MMOs. Now, what some people say they miss, and that really is downtime in disguise, is the social aspect of MMOs. When people talk about how they miss downtime, they don't miss, sitting around doing nothing. They miss having time to form bonds and friendships and have conversations in the game. And the beautiful thing about an MMO is that it gives you a context for your conversations. You immediately all have something in common, right? Oh, we're here defending the world from the barbarian hordes of goblins. Oh, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, how do we beat the goblins? How do we unite all our disparate guilds effectively? That sort of thing. And I love the cooperation aspect too. Early Muds taught me that. People used to solo play a lot. So we've come full circle. And this is kind of weird, right? Muds, when you played a Mud, a lot of it was played single player. You didn't really group. You sort of like did your own thing, right? If you were a mage, you casted spells. If you were a fighter, You swung a sword. And one of the first times that showed me the power of MMOs, and oh, I've got my VTuber UI up. I got to turn that off. One of the first times that I experienced group play in an MMO is during one of these MUDs in Genie, where we were, and it was really weird, right? Because it has all these elements of current day things, but in text form. And what was happening was there was a demon invasion of the land, right? And the demons had, and I talk about this event a lot. In fact, I talked about Gemstone so much on WoW, people were sick of it. They were like, Mark, please don't mention Gemstone again, okay? Like we're putting some of this in here, don't worry. But not enough. We could do more. And so I was the leader of the Thieves Guild, right? I was a rogue, and we had to enter this castle we were storming. And every time that the fighters and even the rogues would try to climb the walls, to scale the walls, to the goal was to sort of open the door to let all the players into the castle and storm the castle. Every time we did that, the demons would pour hot oil on us, and we would all fall to the ground and take a lot of damage, and some of us would die and things like that. And we weren't getting anywhere. And so I turned to a mage, and I said, "Hey, you guys have a spell called invisibility, right?" And they're like, "Yes." And they never thought to cast it on anyone else. There was no in-game mechanical advantage to casting invisibility on someone else up until that point in the game. And people weren't really used to cooperating together to achieve goals. Everyone was a solo player in a massively multiplayer text dungeon. So I said, "Well, I got an idea. Why don't you cast invisibility on me?" And he said, "Why would I do that?" And I said, "Just do it. We don't have any time." And so he cast invisibility on me, and I began to climb the walls, and lo and behold, the demons didn't see me, and they didn't pour hot oil on me, and I was able to scale the walls of the castle, open the gates, and let everybody in, and suddenly we were raiding all the way down into the dungeon to rescue, the leader of the Clerics Guild, Lixel. And all of this was, actually, it was PvP. The demons were played by GMs, right? So this was like a live event, and we were fighting our way all the way down, and we freed the cleric and everything else. And what's ironic is that, as soon as that happened, like a light bulb went over my head. I said, this is one of the most powerful moments in gaming I've ever experienced, is getting together as a group and doing something collectively in this collective hallucination of a world, this fantasy hallucination, and to do it. And it was amazing. But now what really pains me is that MMOs have gotten so solo focused because everyone's time is divergent, right? Everyone's really busy. There's so many online distractions that we lost that social aspect. We lost games giving you enough downtime to form those social bonds. So that to me was interesting. And I think this is also interesting enough. And we're getting heavy into theory here, right? I hope you don't mind. We're getting heavy into theory. Indulge me. This is going to be an Ember stream, I promise. This all comes back to Ember. Yeah, I really look like this. Why? I don't blink as sporadically, but R Flowers 009 says, "Holy shit, you really look like that?" Yeah. Why, did you think I look like a maid Grums with cat ears and a tail? Because that's what I usually stream as. Yeah, no, this is closer to my true form. Yeah, I'm not normally made Grums. I'm sorry. I must have shattered some illusions there. All right, so I'm talking about downtime in MMOs. I'm talking about the social aspect. So when I played Final Fantasy XIV, and I saw people running around in these cities, because they do a really good job of letting you see other players and letting other players show off what they have, mostly glamours in Final Fantasy. It's still cool. That's like missing from WoW. You used to get that maybe in Ironforge around the auction house, old school, but or in classic WoW, that the social aspect happened a lot more. But in modern retail WoW, no, not so much. And in modern MMOs, no, not so much. People don't hang around in cities. And Final Fantasy actually lets you go AFK. So if you want to like show off your glamours and stuff, you can hang around the cities AFK 24/7 if you want, walk away from your computer and things like that. And it's kind of cool. At first, I was like, why are they letting you do this? It's such a waste of bandwidth. And then I realized that it helps that social aspect, that feeling of world. And I think it's brilliant. Now, they had to disable it due to high load recently, and they do this on certain expansions, but it always comes back. But that is that was like a light bulb. I was like, oh my gosh, I finally found an MMO where it's okay to have downtime, and that's reinforced by a lot of the mechanics in Final Fantasy 2. In Final Fantasy 14, there's not just one end game. There's not one end game to sort of like raid and that's it. I mean, you can kind of you can pursue glamours and fashion as your end game. The housing system, you can pursue housing as your end game. I haven't gotten end game. I can't tell you what of what there is, but just from what I've seen and the glimpses I've seen, everything they do, it makes for a much more social experience. But it's still not enough for me. I mean, I love the game. I've decided to make it my new home. I haven't found a MMO that I've enjoyed since Classic WoW. I might be a little bit biased, but Final Fantasy 14 is my new home. I intend to play it long term. I'm fully vested in it. I'm taking my time playing through the story. I've only been playing 125 hours so far. And but that's already a third of the time that I've put into Valheim, and I put a ton of time into Valheim. And some people are asking, what, you didn't enjoy Firefall? I did enjoy Firefall. Firefall was getting to where I wanted it to be, but obviously, there was creative differences with the investors. The investors wanted something that was more WoW with guns, and we had a big disagreement on water under the bridge, I suppose. But the thing is, you guys have given me another chance. You guys have given me another chance at the original vision with Ember. You guys petitioned me to make the game, and now I want to go make it. And right now, all of you are thinking about Ember correctly as a mech versus kaiju game. But, there's an aspect of Firefall, and there's an aspect of these other games that's really key that I haven't talked a lot about. And that is the fact that the pilots or the characters are super important. And a lot of people have asked me, well, why did you make the medium frame default as an open frame where we can see the pilot? And I'm like, well, because and someone asked me on Twitter, what makes the best mecha anime and mecha stories? And I said, it's the one where it's about the stories of the pilots, their trials, their tribulations, and how they master their machinery to overcome these problems and therefore break through and learn something about their own character or to resolve, personal stuff. We got some questions here. Netmold says, I got a question for you while browsing Reddit. Can you agree or disagree with WoW taking a kind of seasonal way with recent expansions? I don't play retail WoW. I have no idea what's going on with it. I honestly can't comment on it. I stopped playing after Wrath of the Lich King, I guess, and Burning Crusade was my favorite expansion. I didn't have anything to do with Burning Crusade. I left, and it took 6 months for them to get past all the issues of WoW launch to actually even think about making an expansion. I'm just talking about how Final Fantasy XIV really brought me back to that, and how much I learned from that. And then the other game that blew my mind recently, for completely different and yet related reasons, in my quest for sort of like the perfect virtual world where I want to live my life, my life away from real life, right? It's like I love my family, I love my kids, I love my wife, but we live in a pretty ugly world. I hate to say it. It's always been ugly since the dawn of time. And we all need an escape. We all need a respite. We all need a place to relax. Excuse me. I'm going to have a sip here. Have a sip with me. Cheers, everybody. Raise a glass. if you got it. Let's drink to the great times that virtual worlds and MMOs have given us, and to the future of MMOs. Cheers, everybody. All right. So the other instrumental game that sort of like gave me a light bulb moment was, if you make games for a while, you sort of start to think, especially if you're technical, right? And I have crossover skills. I have some art skills. I have some technical skills, and so and when you have that and you're designing, you tend to put yourself in a box. Well, what's technically possible, right? What's going to create a choke on the art pipeline that you want to avoid? And in some ways, if you do this long enough, it can really limit your imagination. It can limit how you push the boundaries because there's a lot to be said for thinking realistically, and to get a game done, you have to think realistically. But there's also you don't want to miss out on the big ideas. You don't want to miss out on ways you can push the envelope, even if you just end up pushing it 5 to 10%. It can make a huge difference. And a game that did that for me is a game that ironically is made or helmed by someone who I admired as a kid, and who pushed the envelope even back then of what was possible to make a spaceship game called Wing Commander. I don't know if you guys remember Wing Commander. Wing Commander was such a game I wanted to play that I went out and I got a 386 computer, which was really, really powerful at the time, just to play it. And I got myself a MIDI interface because there were no sound cards back then, right? I actually, if you wanted music, you had to get like a synthesizer in a box that's normally used for, say, musical performances, and hook it up to a MIDI interface to your 386 PC. I even stuck a math coprocessor in it for ray tracing. Not that the game supported ray tracing. And Wing Commander pushed the envelope because it didn't have 3D graphics. There were no 3D graphics at the time, but they brute forced an approach where they would render the spaceship as sprites. And normally we were used to games that were top-down sprites, where you could turn left and right and things like that. But here was like full 360. And how did they do that? Well, he brute forced it. He said, we're going to spend the RAM, we're going to spend the memory, and we're going to brute force this, and we're going to render out 16 positions of rotation for every ship, which was insane, right? It was insane. It was, at the time, that was a lot of memory, and like I said, you needed somewhat faster hardware to run it, and it was crazy. But it was so immersive to play that. So he's doing another game now. You might have heard of it. It gets a lot of flack. It's called Star Citizen, and that's his thing. He's trying to recreate Wing Commander on a living, breathing scale. And we actually did some early work for Chris Roberts in his videos when he was first launching RSI at my old company Red 5, because we had full sort of like we were way ahead of the curve. We had full equipment for YouTube and Twitch and everything else before anybody else thought it was a good idea. Everyone with traditional game marketing background said that was a waste of money, and we shouldn't do that, and everything else. And of course they're now proven 100% wrong. They're just dead wrong. But so that's how we got to know the Star Citizen project a little bit. And so, I paid a little bit of attention to it, but not much. And years later, actually this year, I actually played it again. And I was amazed, not by its gameplay, but by its scope of what it was attempting to do. And this sort of like the fact that he was trying to simulate an entire universe that you could feel. And I said, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm living in this game. Now, there's not a lot to do yet, and everything's kind of broken, but it sort of made me realize that I've been thinking a little bit too much in a box. I've been thinking that we have to abstract out the world, and we have to really put some limitations on here. And the fact is that server technology has gone a lot farther. Rendering technology has gotten a lot farther. It is possible to do more. It is possible to realize more of a world feeling. And if you play Final Fantasy 14, you realize that there's a really good world feel, right? But it's a bit disruptive. It's chopped up into a lot of loading screens. And someone on stream the other day was telling me, "Oh my gosh, you don't have it installed on SSD? Your loading times are insane." I'm like, "Well, you should try Star Citizen or Anthem." No, just kidding. So, and there's two different schools of thought here, right? Star Citizen is a simulation that's trying to be a game, that's trying to have gameplay elements. And Final Fantasy is definitely a game. It has massive gameplay loops, right? And multiple gameplay loops. In fact, where WoW might have like five, retail WoW, right? Retail WoW maybe had like three to four major gameplay loops. Final Fantasy 14 has like a bazillion. And I would say that it has even more than retail WoW. Even though I haven't played retail WoW, you can call me out on that. Maybe you know something I don't. But what I realize is that we can blend the two. We can take the game loops and the core gameplay, everything out that I've learned from WoW and building these types of games, and we can give it a real sense of world and simulation. And not everything has to be about one end game. It doesn't have to be about maxing your mecha and going out and playing the invasions. I was like, what if we think about Ember as an entire world and an entire society? Someone else earlier was throwing up the meme, "We live in a society." Well, I don't have a better word for it. Maybe civilization. But, so let's go over the story of Ember, right? We've put a lot of work into the story of Ember. And there's still some areas that still need a lot of visualization work. But Ember is a story about humanity's, at least for the Gatestriders, they're sort of last stand, right? The branch of humanity called the Gatestriders, they lost their homeworld, and they've sort of been canceled by the rest of the galaxy because they've drawn the ire of an advanced civilization that destroyed their homeworld, and nobody else wants to get their homeworld destroyed, right? So they sort of shun the Gatestriders, and the Gatestriders are traveling around a massive space station that they've built, cobbled together from what remained of their planet, and they're trying to find a new world to find, and they find Ember, and this is their last chance, and and what they have to do is they land on this planet, which is barren and frozen and volcanic in places, or a combination of the two, and they have to open up the world. They have to start terraforming it and converting the entire planet over to a new homeworld for themselves. And if any of you watched The Expanse, I didn't read The Expanse when I did the backstory for this, but it's sort of like, if you follow the Martian arc there and how they're trying to terraform Mars, it's sort that there's a lot of like overtures there too. So you are the Gatestriders, and the Gatestriders, they happen to be specialists in robotics. That's their shtick, right? They when humanity went out and founded the 30 plus colonies of the first human settlements, everybody had to adapt to their planet in different ways. Some of the colonies decided to do bioengineering, and that's how we got cat girls, right? Cat girls were in zero-G habitats, and it turned out that cat-like reflexes and flexibility was really key to surviving in zero-G habitats, and so that's why there's cat girls in Ember, right? There's and cat dudes, and Neko Grums, I guess, would be there too, and they're called Fellies, Feli, right? And Jeff came up with that name. I think it's a great name that Jeff came up with. So, but the Gatestriders overall, they survived the harsh gravity of their planet by giving them power suits. That was their whole thing. It's like they have powered armor, mecha, and they solve all their problems with robotics. They have robotic assistants and things like this. They have AI assistants, all this sort of stuff. This is how they conquered the harshness of their planet. And so they're bringing this technology to bear on Ember, and they are and they are miners and frontiersmen and women, right? So they're very sort of for those of you who read Heinlein, Moon is a Harsh Mistress, Stranger in a Strange Land, Starship Troopers. They are kind of Heinlein-esque in that they are very sort of like rugged individualists, but they've banded together to sort of tame the Wild West. There's sort of like a Wild West thing. Actually, Part-Time Jedi Feli is a Harsh Mistress is a nice play on words, but he already wrote a cat book. It's called The Cat Who Walks Through Walls. So Heinlein did write a cat book already. And so it got me thinking, right? What does this world require? Because they're sitting there, and you as the player, and you're terraforming Ember, but you've also arrived at a bad time because the Sihu have discovered this planet as well. For whatever nebulous reasons, this world is now being is a breakthrough point. It's a breakthrough point through a rift, a dimensional and time rift, where the Tsihu are pouring through, a race of malevolent creatures and they grew up on a harsh planet too. They grew up on a planet and they evolved on a planet filled with giant monsters called kaiju, right? Strange beasts. And so now we have this war. We have this war, and we have to stop the Tsihu because, hey, we're not thinking too deep here, right? This is a fantasy game. They're bent on conquering the universe. They're the flood. They're gonna come through, and they're gonna just like locusts sweep through the entire universe with their kaiju, and once they can get their space kaiju up and running, imagine giant space whales. However, they would travel through space using kaiju instead of spacecraft. That's how they would do it. And so not only do you have, as a player, to carve out a new homeworld here, you have to somehow stop the Sihu from spreading. And you're not united, right? Because you're kind of like all rugged individualists, and you're arranged into houses, and not all of you agree on the best approach. And in fact, there's another faction, a pirate faction, that doesn't care about terraforming the planet. That thinks that they just want to like mine what the kaiju have, and be fully independent of this sort of like quasi unified effort to terraform the planet. So now we've got a planet, we have a war, we have an alien faction, we have factions within the humans, including pirates, and we have a need to do various things on this planet. Some of it is to fight the war, and that's the first phase that we're focusing on, right? Some of it is to fight with our mecha. And you know what? I'm going to do some audio-visual aids here, all right? So, especially for those of you who haven't seen anything about Ember, you know, I think it's good that I share some art while I talk about this. So let's have another sip of your favorite beverage while we do this, while I hunt around for this. Don't worry, I'm just being quiet right now. I'm still here. But I am enjoying a beverage. Okay. Excuse me. So, let's see what I can find here. I'm going to open up another drive that has some of our older art in it, too. Okay. So yeah, I know. So, you know, so we have. So I started getting into thinking. So the Gatestriders, like I said, they use technology. That is their shtick, and they pilot what we call frames, right? So This is the closest probably to Firefall. This is, if you look here, I'll open it up a little bit bigger here. Move Discord window over a bit. There. So, the pilot frames, and we have, and part of what Ember is definitely being like a mecha fantasy game. We want to give you the feeling of piloting what we call omniframes here. Combat exoskeletons, yes. And this would be the medium frame. This is one type of frame. And like I said, the Gate Striders, they conquered their world by being masters of mecha technology, right? But the Mako, thank you. Yeah, right now we do have art in the game, but it's like the old version of the art, and we're currently that what you're seeing here are the concepts for the new models that we are building, that we are not revealing yet. In fact, we took our whole pre-alpha demo back to what we call the white box stage, so that people know everything is temporary. And we also have what's called the heavy frame. So the Gate Striders, they end up piloting stuff like this. So this is basically designed to appeal from everybody from the Firefall fans who like the exosuits and light armor, all the way up to the people who like to pilot larger mechs. But like I said, we're here to talk about some other possibilities. We're here to talk about how I'm now thinking of Ember as a complete world system, right? And playing Final Fantasy, I love the trade skills. I mean, I sort of love the trade skills. I have some issues with the trade skills in that the stuff I make isn't really useful to anybody, right? At least at the lower levels. Classic trade skill problem. But I like that they put so much effort that they treat the trade skill as sort of like a separate job system, right? It has its own combat rotation. You can fail at crafting, and it's not random. It's skill-based, whether you fail at crafting or not. It's random whether you create a high-quality item, but you can influence the RNG through the use of your skills, right? And there are many different trade skills, and even fishing is its own sort of like mini game. And I got to thinking, it's like, you know what? I think in Ember, there's a role for everybody. You don't have to just be a mecha pilot and fight in the wars if you don't want to. Like, you can go ahead and what if we, what does Ember need? It needs people who can go out and mine. So maybe there's more mining specialized mechs that you can assist the Thumper during the mining encounters. Maybe that's your bag, right? And I actually have a mechanic in mind for that I'm not revealing yet, but I'm going to show you. You're actually going to play this rather than me just talk about it in the playable mock-up. But what if you wanted to be a miner more than you wanted to be a combat mech specialist? You can spec out your frame, either taking the current frame and maybe attaching some drilling accessories to it or something else, or maybe we'd create a whole new frame, right? Star Citizen has 100 different ships, and they all have different tactical roles. Or maybe you want to fight in invasions, but maybe you want to be an interior specialist, and you want to fight when it goes hand to hand in the buildings, inside the buildings. And for that, you need your light frame. You're not going to fit a heavy frame into an interior, right? So suddenly there's a purpose for light frames that has a unique combat role. And and there's a role for heavy frames. Like there's big beasties outside that are assaulting your bases, and you need to defend against that, so you could do that. But what if you wanted, what else does a planet like Ember need? You need miners, you need base builders, right? So what if you wanted to specialize in construction? What if you remember that the whole point of making this after WoW was we wanted to make a StarCraft MMO, right? What if you could pilot an SCV? What if that was your shtick? What if you wanted to go around and help build these bases, and that there was a whole sort of like gameplay loop to support that, and an end game to support that, and you could go out and have that sort of role, and your mech could be tailored to be more like an SCV in StarCraft. All right, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Or what if you want to be a farmer? You need food, right? In the lore of the world, we talk about how, they can't wait to start farms on Ember. They've got them in home, right? There's actually acres of farmland there, and Darla works on a farm. She's a mechanic and she fixes up mecha, but she's also out there, farming grain. And Harvest Moon is another one of my favorite games, right? I love games like this. What if we had non-combat roles in Ember, where you can go out and you can mine, or you can sit there and you can, basically till the land and have a whole, farming game and be really freaking social about it, right? And what if we had entertainers? One of my favorite moments in Final Fantasy XIV was when I discovered the Final Fantasy XIV Songbirds, right? Which is a troupe of bards and dancers who go out and perform concerts, and they're playing music, MIDI music, and stuff like this. And I spent I spent 3 or 4 hours at that concert, going out and you know. Giga, that's funny. Arc Liege is on the field. Hits different when you're a farmer. That's one of the perks of being an Arc Liege, is you get announced when you're in the zone. Okay, so what do we got? We have, hey, combat and non-combat jobs. We have a job-like system. We have different pursuits. So if you want to become a hotshot Top Gun mecha pilot and fight wars, you can. Maybe you want to specialize in your light frame because you like interior hand-to-hand, or maybe there's some areas of the world that are only accessible by light frames. Maybe you like, maybe you just want to be a farmer, and maybe there's a whole role for that. Maybe you want to be an engineer and you want to go help build these bases and expand the land, and be a terraformer. I kind of think of it as like a wildcatter, like for oil rigs. You're working on the terraforming machinery. You're helping to stage up zones and things like this. And what if we made it so that it was more simulation than what's currently done in MMOs? Not as full-fledged as, say, Star Citizen, but what if we went ahead and we did something along the lines of simulating the game as a sort of, and it sort of already is. Firefall was already getting to be more dynamic. It was less about a theme park and more about dynamic events that would happen. But we can carry that idea a little further, and we're just talking about blending ideas that are already out there, that are already being implemented. This is not pie in the sky stuff. This is stuff, the pieces are out there, and people have implemented the pieces, and we can take those pieces and we can blend them together in a way that gives me what I want, which is the simulation aspect, the sense of world, the sense of society, the non-combat and the combat roles, the sense of everyone working together to achieve the goal of unlocking the planet and stopping the Sihu from doing the same and invading our entire universe. Yeah, Bruce Willis Armageddon meets terraforming. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the vibe. And the mecha pilots are Top Gun, right? And so, you've heard me joke on stream about being a space trucker, right? All right, I'm going to take another sip here. All right. So I have a lot of ideas, and I'm not ready to completely present all of them yet. But I've been talking about space trucker. I've talked about what if you don't want to participate in invasions, right? Because in Ember you can either go out and mine and build bases and things like this, or you can fight directly in the war effort if there is a zone under invasion, or if you're invading Sihu territory to eliminate a dangerous base there that's a threat to neighboring bases. You can do that. But if you don't want to do that, you can help the war effort that's always happening. There's always a zone that's undergoing invasion or that's being invaded. And you can help by shuttling resources to that location. But you have to do it in mass. Like if you get what they need over to them, they can make more ammunition. They can maybe have more damage, more buffs, that type of stuff. But you have to get a massive amount of resources to the front lines, right? This is logistics in a war because we're also simulating a war. And so what type of role would logistics be? And I thought, why don't we have like space truckers? And again, I'm going to go back to my childhood because everything comes back to my childhood, right? The first movie I saw with swear words in it and nudity was a movie called Convoy, which was about truckers going across America. And that was my first exposure. I was like, wow, there's a lot of swearing in here. I'm an adult now. I'm watching an adult film. to my young, impressionable age. And then I thought about Star Citizen, and was thinking, okay, what if these resources have to be convoyed and you have to escort them with obviously mecha, right? So you have to have combat patrols and stuff like this. And so I started to work with one of our concept artists, and I said, listen, I want I want players to be able to ferry resources from one location to another. And if you've ever played, so many games have been influencing me lately. If you ever played Satisfactory, which is a Coffee Stain Studio game, you know that you can have resource trucks to get resources that you need from one major location to another, right? And so I said, I want players to have a mission where they have to haul resources to the front lines, and they have to do it over terrain, and they have to have cargo, right? Like an 18-wheeler. And so we started concepting out this stuff. I said, okay, let's see what that would look like, where we have like a space truck that you can drive across terrain, and it has turrets on it, and that's a heavy frame, by the way, and that's a person. You can see the scale there. And we started driving it across terrain, and I said, you know what, that would be pretty cool. And maybe this is what you want to do. Maybe that there's a whole gameplay loop associated with this, and you can customize your truck, right? Because the whole idea is that you craft to customize whatever vehicle you pilot. This game is bigger than your. It's not just your character; it's your character plus whatever machinery you are operating, vehicle or mecha, to master your gameplay loop. And so this space trucking idea of getting resources, logistics to the front line of invasions is a combination of, the pilot, and in this case, the pilots, because it's multi-crew, or there's people in heavy mechs alongside of you riding shotgun to get resources from one thing to another. And that fits the Wild West theme of Ember 2. It definitely fits the sort of like caravans, right? Oregon Trail type of stuff, or getting the gold from one town to the next. So we started playing around with this, and I said, I want there to be multiple carts, and actually, they don't have to carry resources. There could be. You ever watch Thunderbirds? Again, this is my whole childhood. Ember is my whole childhood, right? Come to life. And Thunderbirds, there's Thunderbird 1, 2, 3. They're all special purpose vehicles. And I think it's, oh gosh. Am I really going to screw this up? Which one's the one that has the multiple cargo pods? Is that Thunderbird 2? Is Thunderbird 2 the one? But it had multi-purpose cargoes, right? So imagine that some of these could be mech carriers, and you're carrying, frames to the front lines or something like that. Now, this hasn't been completely thought out yet, right? But these are some of the things we're talking about. And so I said, so we had that. And I said, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that idea. But let's take it a step further. Because I want the sense of world. I want what Chris Roberts refers to as physicality and fidelity, right? And that doesn't mean I'm going to go nuts on graphics, by the way. Like, I firmly believe the system has to run on a lot of systems, but I'll talk a little bit later about how Unreal 5 is making some of that very possible. And technologies like DLSS and FSR from AMD making this stuff much more possible. So I said, let's, I said, I remember Convoy. I remember what it was like. What if we started to, oh, I don't know, play with ideas like this? What if you could go into the truck? That you didn't just become the truck, that you could actually go in here and there's a bridge and there's a bathroom and a shower for our anime shower scenes, a bed area where you can sleep. What if the world was really big? Like we started playing with that. Our latest map is 8 kilometers. The white box map is 8 by 8 kilometers, but even bigger than this. Locker rooms, a break room, things like that, right? Yeah, the obligatory anime shower scene. Like, and we said, okay, that's interesting. And what if this was multi-crew? And so that you had some people that are manning the turret systems and some people that are driving and some people that are manning the front-mounted laser to blast big boulders and stuff that are in the way. And I don't know. We just said, what if what if we start detailing out these interiors and this is what the cockpit looks like? It's a big truck and we've got these big windshield wipers on it. And I don't know if you've ever seen a Chinese movie called The Wandering Earth, but that's a space truck movie where they're trying to get from one location to another. And I really like the visual design in that. And I said, well, what if we had a multi-crew and you can actually be in the cockpit? Your pilot can walk around and get into and climb into these chairs or climb up onto that roof. Well, what do you mean roof? I'm like, well, I mean this. What if you could actually get up onto the hatch and you could actually crawl around on this thing, right? And maybe see who are jumping on here and you're fending them off, or knee biters, right? As you're desperately trying to get these resources to the front lines. And then I said, I really like sort of that sort of Star Citizen feel of being able to be in interiors. And this is something that's really subtle. But here's an example of some sketch concepts we're doing for the brake area, and the rear door would actually lead to the rear cargo area, sort of like a train or a subway. They lead to the other cars. And then what if we actually gave you like a living space? Because remember, you can craft your own mech, you can craft your own vehicle, your own truck, you can personalize the whole thing, right? And so we actually took it all the way. I said, because there's something to be said about ship interiors in space games. That's very, very powerful. And if you don't believe that, look at the disruption in Elite Dangerous right now. They are up in arms that they don't have interiors because it matters to their immersion. Immersion is actually key. This is why we made World of Warcraft seamless as much as we could at the time on a continent-based level, because it does matter. And I think we have the technology now to make you feel much more immersed in this world, to make you care about the world more. And so this is the habitation area right behind the bridge, where you've got bunk beds, and you've got the shower and the bathroom and things like that. Yeah, we actually took sleeper cabins from 18-wheelers as inspiration for that. And then you can also climb down. There's actually an engine room. So, so this is, if any of you play Star Citizen and have a Constellation, this should all feel very familiar. I mean, we pretty much just said, well, let's not reinvent the wheel. What does the Constellation have? And go from there. So you've got a platform that brings you up to the rest area, and then there's an engineering room down here. And the engineering room, this is an idea that we're playing with here. So, and this is engineering, right? And it's got this little pop-up chair, which I think is kind of cute. It's a stand while you work type of thing. Any of you who have bad backs, who have ever done this for computer stuff, can empathize. But you'd sort of like lean on this rest while you're doing this. And so your job is to keep the engines running, to man the turrets, to keep obstacles out of the way while you're barreling along with these resources at 100 miles an hour over rough terrain, while being chased by Tsihu and other players in mechs are defending your convoy. and you're getting to the front lines to deliver the resources to make a difference in the battle that players are fighting somewhere else on the planet. All right, that's what I'm talking about. And this, of course, extends to the mechs. When you're in a heavy mech, you're going to see the cockpit, right? I know you guys want to see the cockpit. You guys want to have like that mech warrior type feel, and the heavy mech is great for that because the heavy mech is big enough. The heavy frame is big enough to have that cockpit interior to it. Not only that, but I want to take it further. This needs to be when we do mechs, just like Star Citizen is spacecraft. I call it spacecraft porn, right? I want mechs to be mecha porn. And occasionally I tweet stuff from Gunpla builders on my Twitter, and I call it, and it's time, and I always go, hey, it's time to tweet mecha lewds, right? Look, this one has its hatches open. You can see the inner frame. It's very lewd, very mecha lewd. I want to build inner frames for the larger mechs. I actually want to build it right down to the mechanics, and I want you to be able to sort of like see this stuff in the hangars, or when you're swapping out armor plates on it. And I want it to have that mechanical feel because we can finally do that. I was looking at Unreal 5, and I said, holy crap, Unreal 5 finally makes this possible without tanking your frame rate. Now, there's parts of Unreal 5 that do tank your frame rate. The Lumen lighting engine, which is optional, if you turn it on, does tank your frame rate. But the massive polygon stuff with Nanite, totally is doable. And I wanted this for Firefall too. We actually, not many of you know this, the Assault frame, we had actually modeled an entire inner frame for that because we wanted to show battle damage. I wanted to show battle damage. I wanted to see like holes form in the plates of your frame, and you could see the mechanics underneath. But it really wasn't feasible back then. Well, with Unreal 5, it actually is pretty feasible. You can't do skin meshes. You can't do characters that are a million polygons that are organic and squishy, but you could do things like hard surfaces, right? Like the whole final boss in the Unreal 5 demo is a hard surface character. And so, if we had these heavy mechs and you could blow away parts of the armor plates and see all the mechanics underneath, I mean, how cool is that? Or if you're in your hangar and you see the whole inner frame and you're hanging pieces off of it, how cool is that? How, we get closer and closer to delivering the ultimate mecha fantasy. And so, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at, the non-combat roles, and I'm looking at the space trucker, and I'm thinking about the job system in Final Fantasy, and I'm thinking about the simulation stuff of Star Citizen, and mushing them together, taking sort of like elements of each. And this is a very Blizzard technique, right? We would sort of like take the best frames of stuff and sort of blend it together. So the other thing that I wanted to emphasize is that this is going to be a much more character-centric game than we were first thinking of. Like, people kept asking me, can you get out of your mech? And I'm saying today, not only can you get out of a mech, but there's going to be a lot of reasons to be out of your mech. Like if you're space trucking, if you're farming. But remember, this is a game where it's sort of like you plus whatever vehicle you have chosen to achieve your mission, be it farming or engineering or fighting wars or space trucking. That's the combo. Because I think people relate to characters in a very deep way, much more than they do a mechanical thing. So, we want to be the ultimate sci-fi mech fantasy experience. I mean, that's got to happen, right? We have to deliver on the fantasy of mecha, the fantasy of being in this sci-fi world, the fantasy of being a frontiers man or woman, going out there, terraforming the planet, unlocking it, things like that. And we're breaking it up into phases. That's never changed. First phase is invasions and mining, right? And the vehicles that we need just to support that. But it's a living, breathing thing. And then, the idea was that that's the Kickstarter phase, and after that we will continue to have crowdfunding for sections of the game. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of what we're moving towards. And we used to call it milestone-based funding, right? Because we always said, and we've done this where we've broken up. The first milestone was a website. The second one was building the Thumper. And now we're on the one where we're building a playable mock-up with a thumping encounter, right? So this is this is what we're talking about in the future. It's like, okay, we're talking big here now, right? Because I think you have to paint a big vision of the future if you're going to successfully crowdfund something like an MMO. You can't just say we're making whack-a-mole, right? But I think you have to be realistic about how to do it. And we always said we treat our customers like our publishers. If we don't deliver, the next milestone doesn't get funded. Well, so instead of calling it milestone-based funding, which I think is hard for non-game devs to wrap their heads around as a sort of like roll-off-the-tongue name, we're calling it feature-based funding. Or, you know, or you can think of it as DLC sections of the game that roll out over time. And this was always the plan. This is nothing new. We're just narrowing in on the marketing and branding of how to do this. All right, so I've dumped a lot of ideas out there, and it's time for me to actually look at chat and see what people are saying. Oh, Ataki, the Titan MMO. You want some Blizzard gossip? Okay, I made a mistake early on in the development of Firefall, and I accidentally CC'd my old Blizzard email address on the proposal for Firefall that we were talking about with a publisher, and Blizzard saw it because Blizzard was monitoring my emails after I left. They were very worried about the competition that I might be creating, and at that point, Project Titan was born. And I know this from internal discussions in Blizzard. So Project Titan was in response because, I mean, we all wanted to make this. Everybody on the WoW team wanted to make the StarCraft MMO. We wanted to make the StarCraft meets Battlefield 1942 MMO. And once they got wind that I was doing it because I made a mistake and I CC'd my old Blizzard email address on it, and my friends told me that they were monitoring my mail and to see who was still emailing me there, and they got wind of it, that's when they felt like they had to do Project Titan. Now, they took it in a different direction, obviously. But I've never talked about this before because it's embarrassing to admit that you emailed your old address. But I'm talking about it now. So Ataki, I hope that answers your question, and that's a pretty juicy answer to the question that no one's ever heard the answer to before. All right. Okay, people are saying I should check out the vehicle pics in the main lobby. Yep. Deserts of Karak. I've never played that, but yeah. Okay, well, you know that the pirates are actually sky pirates in Ember, right? They actually have a carrier. Or actually, the different pirates, they each have their own ship. It's very Pirates of the Caribbean, in the lore that Jeff's written for us so far. So this is where we're going, people, and this is why the next phase that you're going to see, the next white box phase, is going to be on Home. Home is the space station that orbits it, because I want to start with the characters. It all starts with the characters and what they can be and what their jobs are and what sort of vehicles suit their jobs and the pairing of the pilot and the vehicle or the machinery needed to do their job. So, Shawarma, I am adding stuff to the vision of the game post launch. Let me make that clear. The vision of the game for early access and launch is the same as in the vision book. But I'm letting you know where it's all leading to. I'm letting you know what's beyond that. Where are we headed? So the idea is that we want to paint the grand vision, and we want to break it up into manageable, funded steps, right? And we want to do this with crowdfunding all the way. I don't want to be in another situation again where I am beholden to an investor who just wants to make WoW. No, fuck that. And in order to do that, in order to get people interested in the project, it has to be a grand vision. It has to be something that says, ultimately, we want to end up here. But you know what? We're going to roll it out into playable sections that are individually funded. And that's taking its cue from how Elite Dangerous was supposed to be, and what Warframe eventually did. But Warframe didn't have a plan, a grand vision from the beginning. They just kind of like added more and more systems, and the systems aren't connected. People talk about content islands in Warframe, how there's a lot of different things to do in Warframe, but they're all kind of separate. The difference here is that Ember is sort of like, we've always wanted to take that approach, but we're laying out a full vision and we're breaking up into playable steps. Okay, Shawarma, I'm glad that answered your question. And this is not a new idea. We've been doing milestone-based funding, but I'll tell you that I wanted to take this to a grander vision, but I was worried about how do I put this? I was thinking a little too small. I got into games to innovate. I got into games to make games that no one else that we can't play yet, that don't exist yet, right? And so this is definitely what I'm talking about with Ember. It's that I want to push the envelope, and then I also want to plan. I want a plan where it's playable early on, and that's broken up into phases. I don't want to scare anybody, and I want to show that we're making progress. So I want to break it up into these phases. The initial phase has not changed. I'm just telling you what lies beyond. And what lies beyond did change. I was thinking a lot smaller. Post launch, I was thinking, oh, we'll add guilds. Yeah, that's good. And we'll add and we're gonna add some vehicles for the invasion part. But I wasn't thinking of it holistically as a system. And now I am. And because of the success of the community, because we've got 30,000 people signed up already, and because we have such an amazing support group here, that I'm thinking bolder about the future past launch. All right, so we got some questions here. Let's see. I'm trying to read through chat here. HS003 says, as both a Warframe and Elite Dangerous player, I hope you avoid their mistakes. Yeah, we're learning from them. Elite Dangerous drifted off the beaten path. I mean, they were doing so well, and then they sort of stopped listening to their community, and they didn't deliver on spaceship interiors like they promised. That immersive spacecraft experience that is key to their game. They kind of drifted into FPS territory. Warframe, they didn't have a grand vision from the beginning, so even though they have a massive game now that it started off as random corridors, and now it's got planets and capital ships and things like that, there was no overall vision knitting it all together. But there is for Ember. I think that's important to set up out front from the beginning. All right, so it's safe to say. So Not Moose says. So is it safe to say that you're thinking similarly to Harvest Moon, work as play model, where chores like supply lines become gaming content? I don't know what work as play means. I've never really read the forums or talked about Harvest Moon. I've just played Harvest Moon, right? And the work is the gameplay, and that's true in Final Fantasy too. The crafting jobs there. I mean, it's just totally clicking in my mind what the future of Ember should be after playing so much Final Fantasy and after playing Star Citizen, and I'm like, holy crap, we could marry these two together and come up with something really special and give people a real sense of world and a role in this society, whichever role they want. If they want to be a farmer, they can be a farmer. They want to be a terraformer, they can be a terraformer. They want to be a space trucker, they can be a space trucker. They want to pilot combat mecha, they could be top aces, right? Like, let's do this. So if that's what you mean, yeah, it's you want to be a mecha spray painter, okay? If it makes sense, if we could figure it out, that I'll entertain it. That's, we'll prioritize it, we'll stage it out. But you're going to see us concentrate back on the characters, We want you to identify with your character. We want you to feel like you are a real person in this world and that you are climbing into your mechs. So animations for getting in and out of your frames are important. How is this sounding to you guys? How is it landing right now? Because I told you last stream I was going to present some new ideas, and I wanted to get feedback from the community. $13 hours, 100 hours into Warframe. Wow, that's a lot. Sai says I was blown away by the mech entrance clip for Anthem. Yeah, I think that stuff's important. Shawarma says glorious. Space trucks go vroom, Mall Eater says. Work as gameplay model is an idea I love. Notier says it helps build a world that you're part of rather than at the center of. Yeah, it's a collective thing. You know, it's like Warframe's all live together song, right? Kraken says I'm mistaken about Warframe, that they did have a plan. Okay, maybe they did. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But it is important to have a plan, I think. Chaz says the enterable vehicles with interiors is cool. How will this be balanced with combat? I suppose being PvE, it doesn't really matter. Well, Star Citizen has enterable vehicles and they do PvP. I don't think that matters. Obviously, there's being a PvE game, we don't have to worry about things like balance or that every. You know, it's not the end goal of Ember to be, you know, there's no sort of like, oh, you have to be effective at battles or you're not going to play the game well. No, I think, you know, there's a lot of roles here that we're talking about exploring. GND0 says, I love the ideas and I was honestly worried, a bit worried about feature creep, but that seems to be planned for, so I trust you did think about how to manage it, even though it still seems incredibly ambitious, which I hope will be more of an impulse than baggage. Yeah, no, the initial feature set hasn't changed. But we always did talk about, you know, the feature sets coming down the pipe, but we didn't know what they were. And they weren't knit together into any sort of in any sort of long-term vision past the launch feature set of the game. But I think breaking it up into feature-funded milestones, and people could potentially vote, right? They could potentially vote. We could do crowdfunding for like, you know, what should the next DLC be for Ember? And we're thinking about these three things make logical sense. And then depending on what people pledge, you know, because we don't charge anybody till the end of the crowdfunding campaign, that could be the feature that gets done potentially next in the pipeline. So that'd be a combination of the developers saying, here's what we think we can do, and you guys tell us, give us your feedback of which one you think is more important. Just speculating here. We don't have concrete plans for that yet. Dark Pie says, sounds like a lot. Hope it doesn't become too much for new players. Hope every level player will be immediately able to find the fun. Dark Pie, I think that's an issue with Final Fantasy. There's so many things to do in Final Fantasy, and you don't really understand what you're getting into if you start crafting. You're not even sure if you should start crafting, or if you should start these duty logs, or if you should start these rotations. There needs to be, you know, a better way to do that. Oh, story. Can we talk about story? I have always been afraid of committing to putting story into the game. But at the same time, I love story, which is why I'm writing a book, right, about Ember. And after playing Final Fantasy, I want to get into the game. I think that's got to be a stretch goal for the Kickstarter, is that we want to put... And I like how Final Fantasy both offers a overall world story as well as a story arc for your individual job that you're following, and you can switch between them. I think that and they did it with all in-game models and just a rich emote set. They were able to pull a lot off with that. Some people bag on it because they spent more money on the story and the cinematics and the later expansions. But to me, what they did in ARR was good. You know, A Realm Reborn, I was happy with the amount of story in that and how it's presented. Yeah, some of the quests are kind of dumb, like 7 fetch quests in a row that with a person standing right next to you. But it has a story. I think that's marvelous. So, you know, what I want to do is for the Kickstarter is I want to have a stretch goal where we do have a world story that gets presented. Mako asks Grums, I like the ideas presented. And I like that you have a plan for Ember, but what is the end game? I get that it's an MMO, but how are things going to progress in the war? Is there a way for that the war can end? No, much like 40K, there is no plan to end the war or our game kind of stops. But at the same time, I'm talking about multiple end games, right? I'm talking about, just like in Final Fantasy, it's not just about raiding and getting the best gear so you can go get the expansion and go get to the end content real fast, raid, and get the best gear again, rinse and repeat. Final Fantasy is a game that encourages you to take your time. You can pursue fashion as your end game. You can pursue housing as your end game. We're talking about pursuing different end game loops. And do we know what they are yet? No, I honestly tell you, I have no idea right now what they are yet. But I think it's achievable, right? I think that, and part of it is, I don't really want the end game to dominate the design. I want the journey to dominate the design. And that's something else that Final Fantasy does that WoW doesn't. Final Fantasy really makes it much more about the journey of getting there. That's what it should be, because if you just focus on endgame, you burn out on the content and you're just waiting for the next content, and you get into this sort of like endless content churn where it takes a lot of time to make a sliver of content for you to enjoy. And when you really should be thinking about systems that encourage you to re-experience the game from the beginning through all the content you've already done, but in a different light. And that's what the job system does in Final Fantasy. It's a different lens to view the content every time you go through it. It's not fully realized. It's not 100% there. But that's always been my goal with Firefall and beyond. It's like I wanted to avoid what I call the content treadmill. I wanted to avoid the rush to endgame as being the only thing that mattered. And I wanted you to feel like you live in this world and that there's reasons to go back. And, you know, Final Fantasy is good at adding mechanics and expansions and reasons to go back to starting zones that WoW doesn't. All these modern MMOs, they throw all that away. And of course, players run out of content in 6 weeks after the expansion ships. And then what you going to do? You got to spend another, you know, if you're making a AAA MMO like Blizzard, you're spending, you know, what, $60 million to make your next 6 weeks of expansion content? That's stupid. I'm sorry, that's asinine. And that's why your player base churns out. Yeah, or your Destiny, and you start removing actual content. Randy T says WoW throws out all his content away every single expansion. It's a horrible feeling. Oh, speaking of, everybody, welcome Randy. He designed the current pet that's up on our marketplace. If you're a monthly patron, and also Crotus, one of our Kaiju Prime, and Crotus is undergoing a little bit of a facelift. We've got some cool ideas coming up for that. Monster Hunter World has good endgame content. Iceborne made it better. Yeah, Monster Hunter's on my list to play. My kids are playing the heck out of it right now, and they are at endgame content for Iceborne. So that's something that I want to check out. Speaking of pets, how are they going to work in Ember? Are they going to be just cosmetic companion? Yeah, for now they're just cosmetic companions, just like any other MMO. You can summon them on home. You could possibly summon them on many of your mechs or vehicles. yeah, Ember base building is templated. It's but it might be a little looser than that. It's I'm exploring some ideas where it's more like an RTS with rules. So it's like you don't have to place the you don't have to. In the vision book talks about there's a ground template that reses and you can res different buildings on top of it. It might be a little looser than that where we're resing buildings, but they have to be within certain distance of other buildings, and that way we enforce a build order too. And they can't be too close, so you can't just like make a wall of buildings, uh, which would make it unplayable for both players and kaiju. Uh, okay, I've said a lot about Ember's future in this stream, so uh, I am going to actually do some raffles here, and then I think I'm going to call it a day and let the ideas percolate. And I want you guys to think about it and post your thoughts on the forums and in Discord. So let's go ahead and let's do a raffle here for a ketchup pack.
Hey, everybody.
Awesome.
We're about to do a raffle. So, those of you who may not know this, let me break it down. So, a raffle, we do that. There's a simple system. We're going to do a test to show you how it goes through. But for a minute here, I want to show you what a ketchup pack is. I want to show you why it's amazing. Now, of course, people who do know, Toshi, you just have to deal with it, okay? You would miss me if I was gone. If I was any quieter, you would listen closer, okay?
This is what now I remember why I lowered your volume. I had you at and I put you up at 100% for the stream, Ronan.
Am I too loud?
Yeah, I'm gonna put you back down to. You're just larger than life. I have to compensate for that. All right, go ahead.
All right. Sorry about your ears, everyone. Okay, so now over the last thank you, Toshi. Yes, over the last well, quite a while now, there's been a monthly patron program that you can join for Ember. And when you're a part of that, every month you get a skin that will be available in game. So now what kind of skins? It could be for a gun, it could be for one of your frames, it could be maybe for a fancy pet. It could be for a husbando, like a an attractive male, badass looking dude, or it could be, of course, for the generally most favored version, our waifus, our wide variety of amazing waifu skins. So, and most recently, even this adorable and amazing looking pet. So there's a variety of things. So, as a matter of fact, Faye, when you're ready, go ahead and show a big picture of all the different things that this person will win if they win this here catch-up pack.
Alrighty.
There they are. Now, these skins come in a variety of, as mentioned, they go to a variety of different things, and depending on their rarity, they'll be available later on. Sometimes it'll be tricky. Your best way to get them is to get them now through a catch-up pack or to sign up for the Ember Patron. Now, please open up that their picture, examine it, see all the beautiful things. You'll notice that the November Darla female skin is the best one. This is a fact. It's science. All right, guys. So the way that the actual raffle works is you'll see a sentence from Faye, our community coordinator. Underneath that, you'll see a sentence from Emberbot, which is our little helper bot. And underneath that, you'll see a notepad emoji with a pencil on it. That is what you're going to click on. You click on that, it puts you in the running. If you click it twice, it'll take you out, so don't do that. You'll know you're in because the little thing will turn blue, and that's how you know what's what. Now, generally, the raffle goes on about 30 or so seconds, and then we find out who the winner is. To make sure it's not confusing and everybody gets it, we're going to do a test raffle to win Faye's thanks. Remember, this is a test raffle.
Please join our Discord server if you haven't already. I have switched back to Neko Grums because I didn't want to like shock everyone with developer Grums. I revealed my true form. But please join our Discord server to participate in the raffles. You get access to developer builds of the demo we're working on for Kickstarter, and you also get access to novel chapters and things like this, and skins.
Okay, Grumps. Now, does your real life maid costume fit the same way it did in your 20s?
I have to admit, I've gained a few pounds since I was a teenage maid. So, and the cat ears weren't possible until I met with Elon Musk and he provided the technology. So,
He's doing good work.
yep.
All right, Faye, let's run this test raffle. Take it away.
Alrighty, is everybody ready?
Yeah, if you join our Discord server, we regularly do raffles for all the things I mentioned. So please hop on over. Also, if you haven't followed us on Twitch yet, please go ahead and do that. I will be streaming more Final Fantasy on Tuesdays, and Thursdays are Ember days. We're being quiet right now because there's a test raffle going on, right? I've lost track already.
There will be in just a second. Yes.
Okay.
Waiting on some of those new people to trickle in.
Dr. Joanne asked when I'm applying for Twitch affiliate. I already qualified for Twitch affiliate, and we're on the path to partner. I guess I should go do that. Not, I should go hook that up. It's just because people want variable bit rates and some other features that I can't offer unless I go that way. Yes, that is CSR you see on the dev team, Sinfei. CSR is our waifu concept artist, our main waifu concept artist. So, yeah. Lyle asks, Lyle4 guy asks, will the player market be like EVE or normal player exchange? I don't know. There's not much I like about EVE. I mean, I understand it's a great game. I couldn't get into it. I don't know what shape Ember will take for his auction house yet.
Probably me standing in the center, just being really loud. Do you want to buy? Just yelling at people.
Hawker's Alley.
Alright, is everybody ready? On your mark, get set, click.
And yes, please remember, do not post while the raffle is up. We need everybody to have a chance to see it. If we were to scroll away, well, that would make that too hard.
All right, this is the test raffle, so you want to get in there and click on that notepad, not any of the other icons. And that's how you enter.
Hey, Mako, congratulations to the this year test raffle.
Congratulations, Mako.
In about 30 seconds, we're going to run the real raffle for the ketchup skins. And Faye, when you run it, go ahead and show that picture again. That way, it'll be stuck up there, and everybody can drool at everything while they're waiting for that 30 seconds. Try to make the 30 seconds feel like 3 minutes.
Alrighty.
Oh, Sinfei, yeah. I'm glad you like CSR's art. We definitely enjoy it.
Okay, on your marks, get set. Well, load. And click.
All right. And the winner is, wow, Nautical Nudibranch. Am I saying that right?
Wow, that's a great name. Nautical Nudibranch.
Awesome. I want to know what it means. Is it like a naked tree on water? Is something like that? No, what I want you to do is send me a private message right away. Let me know that you want a ketchup pack and give me your. It's a sea slug. Okay. Um, give me your Ember ID that you use on myember.com.
It's a sea slug. I don't like it. Eats coral in my tanks.
Oh no.
I don't have a saltwater tank anymore, but when I did, that's one of the things you don't want in your saltwater tank. All right, so I want to share something on Twitch. So Sinfei is a big CSR fan. Not many people know that we work with CSR on our waifus. So if you haven't seen some of the skins he's done for us, we are offering the Abby skin and the Peck skin currently as individual skins in the store. These are ones you can purchase individually. I'll just show some of the art that CSR has done for us on stream here. So this is Abby, winner of the survey for the most favored waifu skin so far that CSR has done for us. I don't know if you've seen that one, Sin. And I'll show you another one here. This is, of course, let me see if I got. This is one of our OPAIs in the game. Skin that you can get for your navigator. And you can join our monthly patron program to collect these rare skins. And, you know, the one I like to show is people ask us how close can we get to the concept for these skins. So we did a test a while back with the Neko skin that CSR drew for us. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, this is our 3D modeled version versus the original concept art. So I think we're able to evoke, you know, the CSR vibe in a way that I think hopefully does his art justice. Awesome, Sinfei. I'm glad you like it. The Neko is missing. Tippers will be back, for sure. And let's see. Of course, there is the favorite, Ronan's favorite, Darla.
She is best girl.
He's so disappointed she didn't win the poll.
Pretty sure there was some kind of anomaly that happened with the counting. I don't know.
Hanging Chads. All right. Well, you're going to be seeing a lot more of the characters. That's what we're focusing on for the next build of Ember is home. We're taking it to the characters, and we're going to be revealing more details about how the pilot role works with mecha, with vehicles in the game. Today was kind of like the big catch-all idea that we threw out there that we wanted to have you guys think about for a little while. And I wanted to thank you guys very much for the time that you spent with us very generously on stream. I know a lot of you want me to stream more Final Fantasy. I hear you, and I love the games, so it is my new home. I will be dedicating some time streaming that on and exploring the game and exploring especially the job system, which you can see will heavily influence Ember going forward. So you'll see that on Tuesdays, and Thursdays will be Ember stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you, community team, for running such a great show once again. Can't do it without you guys. And thank you, community, for listening to all that. I know it was very long-winded, and we had the history of Grum's gaming, and we got into what that means to Ember. But hopefully, it served to show you sort of the inspiration behind what it is that drives me in game making, and where it is I'd like to go with Ember. So please join me on this new epic journey, this new epic MMO that we are charting out step by step. And I will see you on Tuesday. Take care, everyone, and thank you very much.